Hey, what's up, suppers? This is Dave. Just giving you your Crisis on Infinite Earths recap for this week. And since we don't have any Flash or Arrow, the concept of Infinite Earths and crises are all encapsulated within each episode of Supergirl, Batwoman, and Black Lightning. So you're not going to see any of these episodes move the plot toward the Monitor, to the Anti-Monitor, to traveling to other universes. None of that's here. So if you're not trying to see what my thoughts are on how these episodes are going to play into the Infinite Earths, you might as well end now. But instead, I'm hoping you'll stay here. You'll subscribe to some of our YouTube information that we've got here. 3 episodes, 2 of which were super strong, and then one of which was a pretty good episode of Supergirl. So what I want you to see is come with me on this journey. We're going to probably only spend about 5-10 minutes. It's a quick cap of this week and then get us into a full slate of episodes ahead of the next 2 weeks. And then in 3 weeks, we're going to have Crisis on Infinite Earth. So this is going to, I think my math's right. I'm terrible with math sometimes. So why don't we just get right into it? Sorry, Batwoman started off this week with an episode called Jury and Executioner, or something. Titles escaping me at this point. But what it brings to light is this duality of, is Batman an executioner? He does this whole thing, right? So he's always been the judge, jury, and executioner, Batman. He's at least handed off the reins to the police. Batwoman, on the other hand, has this same kind of concept. Is she going to be the judge, jury, and executioner? And it's really brought to light with a new villain, colloquially called the Executioner, that everybody believes to be an escaped convict because he happened to kill a lawyer who prosecuted him, and he knew of the police officer and stuff like that. So they always thought it was like this guy. But what we find out, spoiler, is that it's just like any episode. It's never who it's meant to be originally. It's always somebody else. And it just so happens to be this concept where a trifecta of people, a judge, a cop, and a lawyer, were corrupt enough to bring in bad guys in bad evidence, just lock them away for as long as possible, throw away the key. And it really happens to be it's a racially driven motive that these 3 have. And you could play the game of, did the lawyer know? Was it really just a bad cop? But at the end of the day, yeah, they all knew. There's no freaking way. But the key moment that happens in this episode is when you find out why it's such a question mark for Batwoman and Kate. Is Luke Fox knew knew the lawyer, because this was the guy that tracked down, and at the time was the person that found Lucius Fox's killer. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. Lucius Fox is dead in this universe. And, that's why Luke takes up the mantle and stuff like that. So Luke is pissed because he's like, look, you can't do this, because if you find that these 3 are corrupt, the judge, the lawyer, and the cop, all the cases that involve those 3 are going to get thrown out, and they're going to get retried, and people are going to get let loose. So you have this ethical dilemma, like perhaps maybe they did get it right at that point. I think when you get to the end of the episode and Luke's reviewing the evidence, and there was a gun found, the guy happened to be black, it's the same judge, it's more than likely that they weren't good. But I'm sure at the beginning of when the 3 of them came together to kind of pull off these events, they probably didn't have the greatest intentions, but they were probably thinking, like, this is the best we can do to get crime off the streets and all that other stuff. But really where this is all getting brought to light is the Executioner himself was a guard at Blackgate or Arkham, or whichever version that they are here. And he's pissed because he's like, look, if he was guarding people that were evil, he was all for killing them. Like but once he finds out that a lot of these had the same common thread and they all pleaded innocent and they had the same 3 people involved, that's a pattern. and he couldn't deal with it anymore. And that's when he decided to take the law into his own hands. And that's where you get the duality of, is that what Batwoman is doing? Where she's, and even Batman, to be honest, like they were so tired of the corruption that was actually happening that they took things into their own hand. Is that better for the world? I don't know. I'll tell you one thing. I don't know how this is going to play in a Crisis at Infinite Earths. I don't think it will. I think all of a sudden, when we get to the end of the year and we've got this multi-universe kind of things, episodes like this aren't going to take, it's not going to matter. But I want our listeners and our followers to kind of know that I think this is a strong episode because it really asks the ethical question of, is Batwoman good? Just because she happens to do good things that she thinks is right? Or is she good because she's actually making a difference? Or is she actually a vigilante and that's bad because she's not letting the quote unquote law and justice take over, which may or may not be corrupt. So that's all I want to kind of focus on that episode. It was, again, I liked it. I thought the action scenes were good enough. The ridiculousness of the deaths were fantastic. Very Saw-like in terms of just the idiocy. There's plenty of things to say about how the lawyer died. He could have ran to the left instead of running straight at an electrical fence. I don't know. Things happen. So there it is. Next week, I don't really have any thoughts. I think really how Batwoman's been going has been a very week-to-week basis. I think it's going to hit to a head with Alice, aka Beth, and Mouse. They're going to try to capture Batwoman and try to figure all this stuff out. Should be fun. We'll see how Sunday goes. Speaking of Sunday, the other episode that came on that night was Supergirl. So from Supergirl's standpoint, where we enjoyed, it was fine. It was fine of an episode. I had to do a lot of research because, again, I told you I didn't come into this season knowing anything about it other than like the 3 times Supergirl popped up on the previous crossovers. So doing a little bit of research, I'm finding out a lot about how brainy he is and how he's a half human, half brainiac. Dreamer, who is quote unquote, not quote unquote, she's both a transgender person in real life, but also the first transgender superheroes on TV. I mean, these are things that I just didn't know, and I apologize if folks knew that and thought I just was leaving things behind. I just didn't know, and it's a really great set of casts. And this episode went back in time to really make me feel that I understood why, Lana Luthor and Rojas are the way that they are, and really good backstory. A lot of good. I was happy about that. I didn't need to see them try to push the envelope and try to figure out more, capture humans and figure out the Green Martian, the brother of him. I didn't need to do that this episode, so it was good to kind of get that backstory. Strong episode in terms of feeling for characters. And I think where I was a little disappointed was finding out that Rip War, we knew last week that it was definitely going to be the boyfriend, but understanding that Rojas was actually this shadow creature that showed up a few times. Great little reveal. That was fun. Good to know that. But more importantly, she was doing it not because she wanted to, but because she had to due to this overarching team Leviathan. And I think that's where this episode pushes that Leviathan is the big bad of Supergirl. And again, if you're thinking about how this is going to play into the Crisis, unless Leviathan partners with the Anti-Monitor, it doesn't make sense. So it's definitely, how do you keep this encapsulated plot within a universe without having any. It's good to know that things are happening in other universes that just aren't impacted by Oliver and Barry Allen. So it is what it is, I guess. Now, going a little bit stronger into this, or a little bit more into the episode that I think kind of fell a little bit short, was this concept of this relic. It was good to see Lex Luthor pop up every once in a while and kind of go through, and you understand why Lana is the way that she is, or Laura. Lana Luthor. What was good about it was you get to see how he had this crazy idea to kill Superman, and she knew that she could save him if she only had this medallion, which, as one tends to do. You need a medallion to save your evil brother. It didn't work because there was the other problem where Rojas had a suicidal father. And if she got this medallion, she could prevent that. And sure enough, it basically put those two on diverging paths. You had Lana, who was thought she could save her brother, ended up not being able to save her brother. We know how Lex is. Maybe if she had the medallion, maybe Lex isn't the way that he is. Maybe we have an Alexander Luthor situation, but instead, Rojas gets it, and now all of hers. Now we find out her company skyrockets, makes billions of dollars. She becomes a multimillionaire, and yeah, they have a falling out because, of course, they do. Like you sacrificed. No one was going to win in that situation. Let's be honest. But what we really get to find out is their friendship. They thought they were friends. They were growing up. They had that falling out. Now they became bitter rivals. And then Lana realizes that she needs her tech to make her dream of nobody fighting a reality. And so she kind of puts a poison pill and says, here, you buy Catco, and then I'm going to have, look, you can come to start National City. You can do all this stuff. You can stay within my little bitty thing. So kudos to Lana really stepping into that Luthor mentality, which is seeing the chessboard, looking 6 or 7 moves ahead and saying, I think she's here. This is all that's going to happen. It's going to be great. The Rip Roar character, you know, as I called him, the Dr. Octopus Light, sure enough, was the boyfriend, which we knew. And he escapes with her, but doesn't escape Leviathan. So we'll see how this plays out. Leviathan will be the big bad. I don't know how Supergirl's going to handle it. I mean, again, if I had superpowers like that, I would just keep flying around until I find somebody and then murder everybody. But that's not me. That's not them. They have to actually figure this out, and it'll be exciting. Black Lightning had the penultimate, like it was the best episode of this week. Whew, things happened. So titled Requiem for Tavon, spoiler right in the title. You know, you get to that. It starts with the selfie video. Tavon is wrongly accused of being a meta, and now he has to be on the run. And so there's a part of me that as soon as I saw Requiem for Tavon, find out he's not a meta, that I was like, he's probably not making it out alive. Or in the best case scenario, they're going to rally around him because they think he's dead, and really he's been living in the barn the whole time. That is not the case. He did die. He was murdered by the DEO. ASA, sorry. Mixed up my universes. Did get murdered by the ASA, by Painkiller. And we'll talk about that in a little bit. But it was pretty sucky, right? Because this is now that spark. What this is going to do is now, since they've been occupied, since Freeland has been occupied, a couple things happened. One, there's a curfew. Two, you know, people are getting, it's martial law. It's definitely not great. And the citizens of Freeland, who are primarily black, are very just subjugated to some of the worst things that you can think of. And two things happened. Tavon is killed. And now Pierce knows about this, and he's pissed because it was up to him to save Tavon. And he risked getting Tavon away from a safe environment back into the city to give him back to his parents. So he knows it's on him. And then, of course, the next spark is at the school. Jefferson just can't deal with it. Students are kind of protesting, saying like, hey, why are you here with your guns? You know, talking to the police force that are sitting there, the military force. And they're just kids, right? No one's probably even 17 at this point. And it doesn't look good. Jefferson steps in, takes a beating. It's recorded. And so now the good news is, through this tragedy of, you know, Jefferson getting beat up and, you know, holding back as much as his Black Lightning powers as possible, and sadly the death of Tavon, is that it will be the spark to kind of revolt. So again, none of this is going to play into the Crisis on Infinite Earths whatsoever. But in the plot of Black Lightning, and how do you have this occupation of Freeland, and how do you grow from being a retired superhero to retired superhero to back to superhero, and just do what's right for everybody, it was a great episode. This is exactly what was needed. We've seen Tavon almost since the beginning, so it's a little sad. And like I've said before, Black Lightning is not afraid to kill off its people. Whether it was Painkiller's mom, whether it's Painkiller himself, or back last year. The only person that seems to keep surviving is Lala. Sorry, I didn't mean to laugh at that. It is absurd because he's been killed the most, and that's his punishment, is living with the victims of who he's killed. So we haven't seen him in a while. We may never see him again, but it's good to see that this is the show that's taking the most risks in terms of the message it's trying to portray, the plight of everybody. And, there's even a funny line of, hey, here's my Uncle Gamby. And Grace goes, I thought you'd be black. Yeah, you would, because they treat him, they understand that the Pierces and Gamby have been together for so long that they are brothers and they are sisters and they are uncles and aunts, and they've been together for a long time. So they've bridged that gap. And I think that's what Black Lightning is trying to, the show itself needs to push that forward and continue that message to its audience. And I really hope that we'll have a season 4, we'll have a season 5 of Black Lightning, because that's what the CW is meant to be, and that's what the show, and that's the audience it needs to hit. And it's great. That's the good part about this show. And now what this has led to, of course, is you have Pierce's daughter, who's got this little bitty pulse. She kind of looks like the Dark Phoenix, like she was in last week's episode. This week, she is now going to become her own version of a vigilante, possibly on the side of the ASA, and maybe there's going to put things at a head. But what I wanted to bring up is that, so now that she's kind of working with the ASA, so has Painkiller. And we know that those two have been linked. They love each other. So we're going to really see, and I think it's always been kind of, how are they going to portray, how are they going to interact? Is this going to is it going to bring back memories for him so that he can get rid of this idea of being just a freaking evil asshole? Maybe. That's what we hope. But it's very interesting that at the end of the day, Blackbird, when there was the fight between Blackbird, Tavon, and him, why didn't Blackbird go, holy shit, you're alive? That's a pretty big moment, because he was killed. And she knew him. So again, the sunglasses, it wasn't that dark out. I mean, it could have been anybody, but to know that there's a poison, I mean, there's only one superhero or villain in this case that puts poison in people. That's what happened. He looks about the same height. Maybe it's just so unrealistic that he's alive. Maybe that's why she didn't know. But I thought that was about the only plot hole of this episode that just didn't make any sense. Maybe next week they'll explain it and say, hey, Blackbird, talks to her and it's oh, by the way, he's alive. And then that's going to turn into a whole thing. But I'm not really sure how Jennifer's going to handle it. We'll see. So again, Khalil came back, killed Tavon after he killed his mom. Khalil's not looking good. Obviously, we know that he's being controlled. Blackbird is trying to do her best. But now we're going to get this faction of there is going to be an uprising. So I assume that's what next week's going to be about, just everybody fighting together. What I would really hate, and I'm going to bring it back to Crisis, is this is moving forward, it's going well, and then all of a sudden, boop, they get sucked away. And just the town of Freeland is left holding the bag in the middle of something heroic, or, we need one last thing, and they just get sucked away into some other universe. I'm not sure. I have no idea where this is going to go, but this week we'll have all 5 episodes again. So changing up a little bit, we're gonna end it here. Again, all 5 episodes are here. It's going to be great. Sorry to bring it on a downer on Black Lightning, but again, I want you to know that it has been the best show in terms of messaging and what it needs to be. And for future episodes, stick it here on the YouTube channel. And if you like our videos, subscribe to us. You're going to see a lot of Sixers and Bluecoats content on there right now, so apologize in advance. But Chris is going to be doing a lot of movie recaps. There's been the atypical season going through. This is my weekly little video blog. And, you're going to see some Twitch feeds thrown up there. It's not all Sixers and Bluecoats contents, I promise. So stick with us here, subscribe, click the button. Live events will be coming up, and we just want you to be a part of it. So thanks, suppers, and check you later.